Hey everybody, my name's Craig. Welcome to my channel. So today on Critical Thinking with Craig 2, I want to talk about one of the biggest faults. Now my chair is falling down. Let's see how many times that happens. One of the biggest faults in critical thinking, and this thing has quite a few names, and rhetoric and logic, it's false number of choices, false dichotomy, in psychology, man, there's a lot of twos here. It's black or white thinking, or splitting, and in this attribution style type thing which I talk about, it's this kind of all or nothing. And even high-level philosophers do it, and it's something I like to call the obfuscation of ultimates. Now it's when they push things out to the extremes, because the pure ideologies tend to be a lot easier to deal with than the nuanced positions people actually hold. And it usually comes around in two things. That's kind of this either-or thing where you either have this or you have this. You only have two options, or it's assuming that everything is this clear binary between this, and there's nothing in between. There's black or white, there's nothing in the middle, there's no gray. And we have examples of this all over everything we humans do. I mean, you have conservatives or liberals, you have authoritarian or libertarian, you have Republican or Democrat, you have pro-life, you have pro-choice, you have good, you have bad, you have us versus them, you have capitalism and socialism, you have male or female, homosexual or heterosexual. It's this or this. It's never anything in between, and it's kind of silly. So how did we get there? So in Critical Thinking with Greg, I want to talk about the problem, the thing you do, how we got to this point, and then try to give some help on how to deal with it, how to learn to get past it, how to deal with it in your own life, how to see it, how to recognize it, and how to move through it. So, how do we get there? I think it comes to like an evolutionary... Actually, I have a couple evolutionary potential reasons for this, but the one I like is that we have two hands. We're kind of cut down the middle, bilateral symmetry, I think is what it's called. And we have two. We have two eyes, we have two ears, we have left, we have right. And I wonder how many times in our evolutionary history we had to choose between one thing and another thing. And we can only choose one. Or we can only have these two things in mind at once. And it was this or this. I think I'll choose this today. I don't really need a flashlight. Another evolutionary psych, is tribalism. Kind of this us versus them thing, stranger danger. And it's based around the idea that we grew up in kind of small tribes where everyone around us we were familiar with, and everyone around us was kin. So we were all kind of related, and the people that we saw that we weren't used to, that were strangers, they weren't kin, they didn't share our same genes, and so we didn't have the same desire, the same push, the same evolutionary drive to help protect them, because they didn't have our genes. And evolution is pretty much all about getting the genes down line. It's all about survival. And the people out there, you didn't trust them because they had their own set of genes, and they'd come and fight and steal, and because they wanted to survive too, and limited resources. There you go. So you have this kind of the familiar and the not familiar, us versus them, good versus bad. There's problems. With that, rather, you have to take into consideration this idea called the matching hypothesis. In that the environment that kind of brought up our genes and the environment today is a very, very, very different thing. Our genes really haven't changed hardly at all in like 50 to 100,000 years. But our environment has changed tremendously, even in like the past 10, 20, 50, 100 years. I mean, 100 years ago, we didn't even have cars. We had a few cars. I keep forgetting this is 2015, not 1990 something. Geez, I'm old. Yeah, and to think about it, 20 years ago, less than 20 years ago, the internet didn't really exist, at least for consumer use. And this type of communication didn't exist at all. The fact that I could make a video at home, upload it to where everyone could see it, didn't exist. You had to be like TV. But you have to be careful with talking about F-Psych and talking about tribalism and this stuff. You have to be careful to not make the naturalistic fallacy because, well, just because that's how it was, or that's how we grew up into it, that doesn't mean that's how it should be, or how it should stay. We have these really cool things in our head, and we can change. We can't really change our genes, but we can change the expression of some of those genes. And if we have to choose between this thing, we need to make better choices, and we can do that. We can have conscious choice and choose better. Then another explanation for this kind of either or black and white thinking is that it's a pretty efficient heuristic. Heuristics are problem-solving strategies. And as for heuristics go, taking a complicated thing, reducing it down to two options and choosing which one's best is actually a really good, efficient strategy. Because our brains are limited resources. We don't have infinite resources in time or in even mental capacity. We have to choose. And in our evolutionary past, we didn't always have all the time in the world to choose. We were up against deadlines of getting food, and if a lion jumps out behind you, then you've got to decide really quick what to do. And if you sit there and think, well, I could do this, or I could do this, or I could do this, or I could do this, you're dead. And that, it's fight or flight related to that kind of a stimulus. And so don't get me wrong, there's a lot of things in life where reducing it down to two options is actually a pretty good problem-solving strategy. The trick is to learn when to use it and when not to use it. Because simplifying down too far is a big problem. So we have this kind of spectrum. Imagine that, a spectrum from over here where it's actually, this kind of simplification thing, it's actually a good thing. And then as you move over, it ends up being this kind of lazy, not thinking enough thing. And then way over here, it ends up being this really problematic, like psychological problem. And so how do we fix this? How do I, give you some information about how to deal with this in a way that is helpful, is good, that you can use? And it's this thing we call in psychology consciousness raising. It's learning. It's raising your consciousness so you can understand the world in a better way to make better choices. And so the world is a complicated place, and almost nothing is a true binary. Most things have multiple possible answers, and even those different answers have spectrums. So we can learn about different topics. A lot of the topics I mentioned before are government-related, types of governments, types of economic policies. And, if you really think about the United States government, it's pretty fantastic because it's not just Republican or Democrat. It's actually this really awesome melding of several different kinds of government. It's, it's a monarchy, it's an oligarchy, and it's a republic. And those things are all built underneath, people. And it's kind of all sandwiched down with the Constitution. So the founders of this government, the United States government, I think were freaking brilliant. These guys put together a type of government not just based on one spectrum or two options. It took the best options of all the different types of governments kind of in existence at the time and even before that, and took the best parts of each one, the kind of executive branch monarchy to be able to do things, the Supreme Court oligarchy, just a few people with a lot of power, and then the, kind of representative part to help legislate. And each one of these, they took the powers, the important parts of each section, and had them kind of basically fight against each other to create something even better. Instead of going off of one or two simple things, they took a whole bunch of different ideas, put them all together, and made them balance each other out. And this is the kind of the thing we need to do, is learn how to not just have one view, one binary view, but be able to synthesize all these different perspectives, all these different ideas, and then bring it together. So I've talked about a few things, and now I want to talk about one more, and it's the psychological one, and it's called splitting. And it's an extreme form of this black and white thinking, all or nothing, good or bad. And it's often used as a defense mechanism or a means to maintain a positive self-image, and is very often a response to significant personal trauma. And it's a symptom of both borderline personality disorder and narcissistic personality disorder. And having said that, I need to say something quick. And that I'm not a mental health professional. I'd like to be one in the future, but I'm not now. So nothing I say should be thought of or misconstrued as me giving professional mental health advice or a diagnosis of anything. I'm not able to do that, and you should definitely not try to diagnose yourself. That's a mess. Don't do that. Having said that, if you see some of these signs, well, you're probably normal. We all kind of do it, and we all have issues with these things. But if you see these signs and it causes you significant distress, or it makes living your life really, really difficult, it makes living your life impossible, you're unable to function, go see a mental health professional. There is people out there, there is hope, they can help you. You are not stuck in these same destructive patterns. Go get help. And they want to help you. They can. It's good. Go find someone to help you. And getting help is not a bad thing. It doesn't mean you're bad. So, to wrap up, the world is so much more complicated than either or. People are not simply good or simply bad, and personally I don't even think people are the kind of thing that can be good or bad. And I'll talk about that later. And even morality isn't this fight between good and evil. It's actually about better and worse. So we can't pigeonhole ourselves, others, and even situations in the world into these oversimplified all or nothing binaries. We have got to start to see the world as nuanced, and even see that other people are just as nuanced as we are, and give them the credit for that, and not think that their worldviews are binary and ours aren't, because that's not really fair. So we need to move away from this gross reductionism and start to see the world in all the complex and wonderful spectrums it actually contains. So I will see you beautiful and colorful people later. Don't kill yourself to live. Peace. Hey everybody, welcome to End Card. I'm going to move over here for a second. Hope you all like my video. Hope you're finding it interesting. Like, comment, subscribe, get involved. Tell me what you think, and I will respond to as much as I can. Answer your questions and all that stuff. So be sure to check out what's going on here. Check out my laptop. I think it's over here. And watch my last video. I'm also doing Vlogtober. This is October 2015. And every day I'm posting a new vlog every day. So go check that out. Anything else going on? Checking the doobly-doo for links and all that stuff. Go follow me on social media and whatnots. And yeah. So I hope you all have a good day. I will see you all later. Don't kill yourself to live. Ta-da!